So we're going to look at just sort of this 5-phase system. If you can imagine for a moment a yin yang or the Tai Chi 2 overlying this, we can understand that fire would be at the most yang of these 5 phases. Earth here, and then generating metal. The black arrows refer to what we call a generating relationship. So water generates wood, wood generates fire, fire generates earth, earth generates metal, metal generates water. These colored arrows that sort of create this 5-point star also define another kind of relationship that can either be called the grandmother relationship, right? Because water would be the mother of the mother, so the grandmother of fire, right? Fire is the grandmother or the control of metal, right? Metal is the grandmother or the control of wood, right? And we can think about this, these imagery, right? Where we know an axe can chop down a tree, right? So there's control there. Wood actually sort of holds earth in place. The roots of wood trees hold the earth and the mountains in place. When we have fires in California and it rains, we then have landslides because the wood can actually no longer contain the earth, right? The earth actually sort of creates the bank of the river, right? And sort of therefore holds the earth, the river, the water in place, right? When there's flooding, earth is not able to hold, right, that in place. Water, you know, controls fire, right? This is sort of the way these are phenomenon of nature. Now, I want to just talk through a little bit of sort of some of the experience that we're having in this pandemic quarantine mode, as well as in the rush and the need and the action that we are seeing mobilized in our social justice movements. So if we overlay the idea that this would be summer, and you can certainly feel the hot heat of fire in summertime, water is sort of more winter, right? Then we've got spring wood, and earth, metal, really being the season of fall, right? Metal being the season of fall. We can see that we were called to actually stay indoors and not go out, not be seen at exactly the time within the cycle of energy change that was up and out, right? We were really literally being sort of sheltered in place, like as if we were stuck under a rock, right? So the energies of what sort of come forth when we are now in phase 1, or when confronted with injustice, murder, rage, just there's no holding back, right? Because it's really all just sort of coming out with greater and greater force, right? The other relationship that we can see is that this can also be characterized not only physiologically and in a healthy way, but it can also be overactive or out of control. We'd see this up energy in experiences of anxiety, right? Nervousness, insomnia, not being able to settle down, right? We could see the down energy being sort of pathological, and just not pathological, and I don't mean that in a bad way, I mean it sort of from a medical perspective, sort of too much when we have this constant sinking feeling of depression, right? And just loneliness and quietude and darkness, right? And one of the things that we can deploy within this 5-phase diagram are ways of finding support systems through these phases, right? So let's say that there's an aspect of sinking and darkness, depression, right? Sometimes the things that can help us most is actually deploying planning and action, right? That allows the sinking energy not to just sink down in a perfect vertical, but can actually pivot, right? And begin moving towards the upside, right? The idea that we can sort of take that sinking energy and not let it just go straight down, but begin to pivot over. and why it's so critical to think about planning, right, as well as action, right, because these are the forces that sort of bring that energy upward, right? So I want to pause there for a moment because I've been talking a lot at you, and I'm sorry for that, and sort of have us take 5 minutes of quiet to connect for the moment to any of these ideas where we're sort of thinking about the nature of what surrounds us, the nature of the natural world, the rhythms that are set by 24 hours in a day or 365 days in a year. How can we align our own processes and experiences to these forces of nature? And so if you've got a piece of paper and a pen, I'll just set the timer for 5 minutes and have you sort of take in a little bit of that reflective practice.